On January 29, 2025, former President Donald Trump signed a significant settlement agreement with Meta Platforms Incorporated, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram. The settlement, which mandates Meta to pay Trump $25 million, aims to resolve ongoing legal disputes related to Meta's handling of Trump's social media accounts, particularly following the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot. Background of the dispute. The conflict began on January 6, 2021, when a mob of Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol, leading to a national crisis that prompted widespread condemnation of Trump's actions and rhetoric. In the aftermath, Meta suspended Trump's accounts, asserting that his posts posed a risk of inciting further violence. This decision sparked a fierce backlash from Trump and his supporters, who claimed the suspension was politically motivated and an infringement on free speech. In the years that followed, Trump's legal team initiated multiple lawsuits against Meta, alleging defamation and seeking damages for what they described as unjust censorship. Trump's legal arguments centered around the claim that Meta's actions had harmed his reputation and political career. Settlement details. The settlement agreement reached on January 29, 2025, represents a pivotal moment in this legal saga. The $25 million payout from Meta is designed to settle all claims Trump had against the company, effectively bringing an end to the legal disputes that had persisted since his suspension. While the financial compensation is substantial, the settlement is also seen as a strategic move for Meta, allowing the company to avoid further legal battles and potential courtroom drama that could draw public scrutiny. The resolution indicates a willingness from both parties to move past this contentious period. Although the motivations behind the settlement have been interpreted differently across various news outlets. Implications of the settlement. The settlement is likely to have broader implications for Meta's content moderation policies, especially concerning political figures. Observers note that this agreement may influence how the company balances the need for platform safety and accountability against claims of censorship from public figures. Trump's supporters may view the settlement as a validation of his claims against tech companies, while critics argue that it raises concerns about the accountability of social media platforms in regulating harmful content. Public and media reactions. Reactions to the settlement have been varied. Supporters of Trump are likely to celebrate the outcome as a victory against perceived censorship, interpreting the settlement as an acknowledgement of wrongs done to Trump. On the other hand, critics of Trump and advocates for stronger content moderation may express concerns that the settlement undermines the ability of social media companies to enforce rules intended to prevent the spread of misinformation and incitement to violence. Media coverage of the settlement has also highlighted the differences in framing the event, with some sources portraying Trump as a victim of a biased tech system, while others emphasize the responsibilities and challenges faced by social media platforms in managing content from high-profile users. Conclusion. The settlement agreement between Donald Trump and Meta Platforms Incorporated marks a significant development in the ongoing debate surrounding free speech, social media governance, and the responsibilities of tech companies in moderating content. As Meta prepares to navigate the future of content moderation, the implications of this settlement will likely resonate throughout the industry and influence the broader conversation about the role of digital platforms in political discourse. The settlement agreement between Donald Trump and Meta Platforms Incorporated highlights several counterintuitive aspects in relation to content moderation, political influence, and the financial implications of legal disputes involving social media giants. 1. Financial settlement versus political narrative. While the settlement amount of $25 million suggests a significant financial penalty for Meta, it raises questions about the intersection of money and political power. Typically, one might assume that high-profile figures like Trump would seek to exert their influence through political means rather than financial settlements. Yet, this situation flips that expectation by indicating that financial compensation can be a pivotal strategy in resolving disputes with powerful tech companies. 2. Perception of censorship. Trump's supporters may view the settlement as a validation of their claims regarding censorship and the unjust treatment of political figures on social media. However, the very fact that a settlement was reached indicates a recognition, albeit reluctant, of the rules and responsibilities that platforms like Meta have in moderating content. This complicates the narrative that social media companies can operate without accountability, suggesting that even high-profile figures must navigate the complexities of digital content policies. 3. Meta's position on moderation. The agreement may lead observers to assume that Meta's policies will become less stringent in response to political pressures. However, it could also be interpreted that the settlement serves as a warning to other platforms about potential legal repercussions of content moderation decisions. This could paradoxically lead to stricter moderation practices as companies seek to avoid similar legal challenges in the future. For legal precedent and future implications, the settlement might suggest that legal challenges from political figures can result in substantial payouts, which could encourage more public figures to pursue similar actions. This counterintuitive outcome could lead to an increase in litigation against tech companies, which might otherwise be expected to resist such claims due to the potential for long drawn-out legal battles. 5. Public sentiment and backlash. The expectation might be that a settlement of this nature would lead to public outrage against Meta for rewarding Trump's grievances. However, public reaction could be mixed, with some viewing it as a necessary rectification of past actions, while others may see it as capitulation to political pressure. This duality illustrates the complex relationship between public sentiment, corporate responsibility, and political accountability. 6. Impacts on content moderation policies. While one may assume that financial settlements like this would lead to more lenient content moderation policies, the opposite could occur. Companies may feel compelled to tighten their moderation standards to mitigate risks of further legal challenges. This counterintuitive consequence could inadvertently result in less political discourse online as platforms become more cautious about content that could lead to legal repercussions. In summary, the settlement agreement between Trump and Meta reveals a complex interplay of financial, political, and social dynamics that defy straightforward interpretations. The implications extend beyond the immediate legal resolution, potentially reshaping the landscape of content moderation and the role of social media in political discourse. The settlement agreement between Donald Trump and Meta Platforms Incorporated, signed on January 29, 2025, is a significant development in the context of digital governance, free speech, and the evolving relationship between political figures and social media platforms. While many aspects of this agreement are highlighted in the media, several important details and implications may be overlooked by the general public. 1. Legal precedents. One crucial aspect that might be overlooked is the potential precedential impact this settlement could have on future litigation involving social media companies and political figures. By agreeing to a settlement, Trump might inadvertently set a benchmark for other political figures who feel aggrieved by content moderation decisions. The financial compensation of $25 million is substantial, which could encourage similar lawsuits from other politicians or public figures who believe their rights have been infringed upon by social media platforms. Significance: this could lead to an increase in lawsuits against social media companies, thereby complicating their content moderation policies and potentially leading to more cautious approaches in dealing with politically charged content. The legal landscape surrounding free speech in the digital age could shift significantly as a result. 2. Meta's content moderation policies. The settlement may also prompt Meta to re-evaluate its content moderation policies, especially concerning political speech. Given the backlash Meta faced after suspending Trump's accounts, the company may now feel pressure to develop clearer guidelines that balance free speech with community safety. The agreement could serve as a catalyst for Meta to define its policies more explicitly and perhaps even adopt a more lenient stance toward political figures in the future. Significance: the potential shift in policies could alter the landscape of political discourse on social media, affecting how politicians communicate with their supporters and the broader public. It raises questions about the role of social media platforms as arbiters of truth and the extent to which they should intervene in political speech. 3. Public perception and political narrative. The narrative surrounding the settlement is also significant. While Trump's supporters may view this as a victory against censorship, critics argue that it undermines the accountability of social media platforms. This divergence in public perception could deepen existing partisan divides. The media portrayal of this settlement can influence public opinion regarding both Trump and Meta, affecting their reputations moving forward. Significance: this situation illustrates how settlements in high-profile cases can shape public discourse and influence the political landscape. The framing of this agreement in the media could impact voter perceptions in future electoral outcomes, particularly as social media continues to play a vital role in political campaigns. 4. The broader debate on free speech. The settlement adds another layer to the ongoing debate about free speech in the digital age. It raises critical questions about the balance between protecting free speech and preventing the spread of harmful or misleading information. The implications of this agreement may resonate beyond Trump, affecting how other users of social media platforms perceive their rights regarding speech and content moderation. Significance: as social media becomes an increasingly dominant platform for political discourse, the outcomes of such legal battles will shape societal norms around free expression and the responsibilities of tech companies. This case could serve as a reference point in discussions about the regulatory frameworks governing social media platforms and their impact on democratic processes. 5. Potential impact on other tech companies. Finally, the settlement could influence not only Meta but also other tech companies that manage social media platforms. As these companies navigate the complexities of content moderation and user rights, they may look to this settlement as a cautionary tale or a case study in handling similar situations. Significance: if other tech companies observe a trend of legal challenges stemming from content moderation decisions, they may preemptively alter their policies to avoid litigation. This could lead to a more homogenized approach to content moderation across platforms, impacting how diverse the conversations on these platforms can be. Conclusion: the settlement agreement between Trump and Meta is more than just a financial transaction. It represents a pivotal moment in the intersection of politics, technology, and free speech. The nuances surrounding the legal implications, Meta's content moderation policies, public perception, the broader free speech debate, and the potential ripple effects on other tech companies are significant and warrant careful consideration. As society continues to grapple with the complexities of digital communication, the outcomes of such agreements will likely play a crucial role in shaping the future of political discourse and the responsibilities of social media platforms. 1. Settlement amount and financial implications. The $25 million settlement between Donald Trump and Meta Platforms Incorporated is a significant financial resolution that highlights the impact of legal disputes in the tech industry. This amount not only serves as a compensation for Trump but may also influence how tech companies approach similar legal challenges in the future. The financial aspect of this settlement may set a precedent for other political figures seeking damages or reinstatement after content moderation actions taken by social media platforms. 2. Legal context and resolution of disputes. The settlement addresses a series of lawsuits filed by Trump against Meta, which stemmed from the suspension of his accounts following the January 6 Capitol riot. This legal context underscores the broader implications of how social media companies navigate content moderation and the legal ramifications of their policies. The resolution of these disputes through a settlement reflects a strategic decision by both parties to mitigate further legal battles and public scrutiny, suggesting a more conciliatory approach in handling politically sensitive cases. 3. Implications for content moderation policies. This agreement could have far-reaching implications for Meta's content moderation policies, especially concerning political figures and their engagement on social media platforms. The settlement may prompt Meta to reassess its guidelines on account suspensions and reinstatements. balancing the need for accountability with the potential for backlash from political entities. The reaction to the settlement from both supporters and critics of Trump may influence how Meta and other platforms manage similar situations in the future. For public perception and political ramifications, the public reaction to the settlement is likely to be polarized, reflecting the ongoing divide in American politics. Trump's supporters may interpret the settlement as a validation of his claims regarding censorship, while critics may argue that it undermines the role of social media platforms in maintaining accountability and preventing the spread of harmful content. This dynamic highlights the challenges faced by tech companies in navigating political discourse and the expectations of their user base, ultimately shaping the landscape of digital communication and free speech in the political arena. 1. United States vs. Nixon 1974. This landmark Supreme Court case involved President Richard Nixon and the Watergate scandal. After the break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters, Nixon was accused of covering up his administration's involvement. When subpoenaed for tape recordings of conversations in the Oval Office, Nixon claimed executive privilege to withhold them. The Supreme Court ruled unanimously that the president was not above the law and had to release the tapes, which ultimately led to his resignation. This case is similar to the Trump-Meta settlement, as it involved a president's accountability to legal processes and the implications of executive actions on public trust. 2. The Pentagon Papers case, New York Times Company v. United States. 1971. This case centered around the publication of a classified government report that detailed the United States' political and military involvement in Vietnam. The Nixon administration sought to prevent the New York Times from publishing the papers, claiming national security concerns. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of the newspaper, emphasizing the First Amendment rights of the press against prior restraint. This case parallels the Trump-Meta agreement, as it highlights the tension between government actions, public accountability, and the role of media and technology platforms in disseminating information, which he claimed was barred by presidential immunity. The Supreme Court ruled that a sitting president does not have immunity from civil litigation for actions taken before he took office. This case is relevant to the Trump-Meta situation, as it underscores the principle that political figures can be held accountable through legal means, reinforcing the precedent that actions taken while in office can lead to legal consequences, whether they involve personal conduct or, as in Trump's case, actions related to social media and political discourse. The settlement agreement between Donald Trump and Meta Platforms Incorporated represents a pivotal moment in the ongoing discourse surrounding social media regulation, free speech, and the political landscape in the United States. As we look to the future, several predictions can be made about the implications of this agreement and the broader context it fits into. 1. Shift in content moderation policies. The settlement is likely to influence Meta's content moderation practices, particularly regarding political figures. With the financial settlement and legal disputes resolved, Meta may adopt more lenient policies towards politicians, fearing backlash similar to that experienced during Trump's suspension. This could lead to a recalibration of how social media platforms assess risks associated with political content, potentially allowing for more controversial speech to circulate without immediate repercussions. 2. Increased political engagement on social media. Trump's reinstatement on social media platforms could lead to a resurgence of political engagement, particularly among his base. His presence online has historically driven significant interaction and mobilization. As Trump continues to engage with supporters through social media, it is likely that other political figures will follow suit. Realizing the importance of these platforms in shaping public opinion and mobilizing voters. 3. Legal precedents for social media accountability. The outcome of this settlement could set a precedent for how social media companies handle similar situations in the future. If political figures perceive that they can challenge social media platforms legally and financially, it may embolden others to pursue similar actions. This could lead to a wave of lawsuits aimed at tech companies, prompting them to rethink their terms of service and the legal protections they have in place. 4. A public sentiment and political polarization. As the debate over free speech and censorship continues, public sentiment around social media platforms will likely deepen. Supporters of Trump may view the settlement as a vindication of their beliefs regarding censorship, while detractors may worry about the implications for accountability and discourse. This polarization may result in increased activism on both sides, influencing how social media platforms are perceived and potentially leading to calls for regulatory changes. 5. Regulatory scrutiny of social media platforms. In the wake of this settlement, there may be heightened regulatory scrutiny of social media platforms by government entities. Lawmakers could feel pressured to create clearer guidelines regarding the balance between free speech and harmful content, particularly in the context of political discourse. This scrutiny could affect how companies like Meta operate in the future, possibly leading to new regulations that govern content moderation practices. 6. Impact on future presidential elections. Trump's ability to communicate directly with his supporters through platforms like Meta could have significant implications for future presidential elections. If he runs for office again, his social media strategy will likely be a critical component of his campaign. The ability to reach a large audience quickly and effectively could influence voter turnout and engagement in ways that traditional media may not. 7. Evolution of political communication. The settlement could signify a broader evolution in how political communication occurs in the digital age. As social media continues to play an integral role in political campaigns and public discourse, the dynamics of political messaging will evolve. Candidates may increasingly rely on social media not just for campaigning but also for real-time engagement with constituents, blurring the lines between traditional political communication and social media interaction. 8. Emergence of new platforms. As the discourse around content moderation and free speech continues to generate debate, there could be a rise in alternative social media platforms that promise fewer restrictions. Users seeking platforms that align with their beliefs may migrate to these spaces, potentially creating echo chambers that further entrench political divides. These emerging platforms could attract users disillusioned with mainstream social media sites, leading to a fragmented online environment. Conclusion. The settlement between Trump and Meta is a significant event that reflects and may further influence the complex interplay between social media politics and public discourse. As we move forward, the ramifications of this agreement will likely unfold in various ways, shaping not only the future of social media engagement but also the broader political landscape in the United States. The ongoing debate about the responsibilities of tech companies, the rights of individuals, and the nature of free speech is far from over. And how these issues are navigated will be crucial in the years to come.